How is it? Any luck? 1 minute.
I received notification that we're live streamed.
Yeah, we are live. Yeah. Okay. So, hello everyone. Today is the first out of the series, the first webinar. Today's webinar is dedicated to culture in war times and crisis. We have wonderful guests with us from Armenia, Georgia, and Ukraine. I would like to ask you first to introduce yourself, and then we can just continue on with the discussions. Briefly, I'll be moderating the discussion. For those who don't know me, I'm Anna Raboshenko, and in this particular case, I'm a co-founder of Culture for Democracy, one of the initiators of the project. So appreciated a lot your time, and we know that you're living in really tough times and conditions. So please start with Katya, then Shokert, and then Otar, please.
Yeah, hi, my name is Katerina Radchenko. I'm curator from Ukraine, and I'm based in Kyiv. So I'm founder of Odessa Photo Days Festival and also the curator of the Ukrainian House of Photography. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shorakat Malkegalisian. I'm from Armenia, having different heads, but most importantly, co-founder of Media Theater, which is an independent contemporary dance company, and also co-founder of ASA Advocacy Society for the Arts.
Otar?
Good evening, my name is Otar Berzanishvili. I am founder and head of Trade Union Musicians in Georgia and co-founder of Confederation of Independent Trade Unions of Georgia.
Thank you all. So I'd like to start with the first part of our discussion, and I'll start again with Katerina. It's really a hard situation. Already the fifth year started in Ukraine, and being a culture manager, professional, head of the organization, can you tell us a little bit what is the war affecting the mostly? Besides that, we know the situation is really hard, and it's almost like it's a survival on a daily basis, on an hour basis. But in terms of your profession, in terms of like festival that you're running, what are the sacrifices, how you manage to survive, and what are the ways?
Yeah, like to be honest, it's so many things that like I even don't know like what to share. But like I'll try like to just a little bit like to jump on the several layers. So starting from the logistic and organization level for all the art institutions or for the museums in general, of course, like we are facing in winter time, which is like almost half of the year, it's blackouts and it's no heatings, which is actually influence a lot how the institutions are working. And so all the exhibition plannings, it's like plans on the warm time, and it's also like influence how the spaces and institution can host the events. Then also like it's about the case of the protection and to have a safe possibilities for our audience. It's also like all the time in mind when and where we can do our events, that our audience can be safe in if it's the alarm and like if it's like some danger comes. But also it's the question of the damages of the houses by itself, because even like 2 weeks ago, there was a quite heavy attack in Kyiv. And during that attack, it was the art museum was damaged. It's also like one of the gallery was destroyed completely. So it's really like you're starting something, you build something, but then it's like any night, anytime it can be destroyed. And of course, like it's influenced the work. But also like it's somehow like nowadays when you're thinking about the project, like it's much more things, logistical things in your mind. So like it's not only about the concept, it's not only about what we would like to share as a statement with our audience, what to show, but also it's all the time thinking about this extra logistics. But also, I think it's quite important to mention another layer. It's human sources. Because a lot of our colleagues who is working in the art field, they join the army. So it means that like a lot of people who were involved to the art community, like who produced something, now they're like joining the army. And of course, like it's a lack of the sources. It's really lack of the professionals, partners with whom we can work, with whom it's possible like to develop the project together, but in the same time to support each other. And this is also like then another things. It's supporting, like really supporting inside the community and the sharing the sources, the sharing the programs and providing the programs to each other, like which is like can help like to keep the mental health. And here, like briefly, like talking about this personal level, like which we are all of us has this issue. Like in simple, I think the biggest problem it's the almost 5 years of the full-scale war, and it's mental and physical health. Because when you're living all the time in the stress conditions, all the time under the attacks and under the danger for yourself, for your family, for your colleagues, it's really like it's a huge pressure for the work, for the concentration, for the like simple how you can focus and how can you function as a person. Because lack of sleep, stress, and this like damages which is like influence the health is really like has a huge influences how we can be productive and how can we work. So like let's say it's a brief like a brief seeing what it is like to living in the war conditions. But to be honest, like it's absolutely not possible to explain, because like it just like every time it this extra unconscious stress and extra unconscious thoughts how to protect yourself, how to protect the others, and how still to be active and still to have this energy to move forward.
Thank you, Kata. Just one quick question. Do you think that being busy with the projects and being doing something still it helps?
Yeah, from one side it helps a lot. It really helps because like being busy, it means less to think about what's going on around. And to be honest, it's the things which most of the art curators and managers and like activists are really like used for the self-protection, because like it's really like you're focusing not on the conditions of the war, you're focusing on the results of your work, you're focusing in belief that your work can be helpful for someone and can be supportive to someone. So this is like really helpful from one side. But from another side, because it's like just from 2022, to be honest, like it's like this non-stop with no break, with not even time for the personal reflection and personal, I don't know, like simply rest. It's also influenced the body and the mind by itself. And then, of course, like it's from one side, it helps. From another side, it's collapsed. It's collapsed the physical health by itself.
Thank you very much, Kata. I hope that it's really hard to hope on and to expect some big challenges, but we truly believe that Ukraine will win, and because it's the common win at the end, and there is no question. I'll jump to Shokat, and I'd like to ask you, tell us a little bit about the situation in Armenia. Though we're like very close neighbors, I don't think that we know exactly what is going on and how does it affect the culture scene in Armenia, and what you recently experienced like war, and then these big challenges and big changes still to come, and can you tell us a little bit more? How is it to be an art professional and work in a field of culture in these conditions?
Yeah. And before answering, I guess like our thoughts and prayers to everyone who who is in Ukraine, and hopefully, it's also the case because I mean, when I was born, it was the first Nagorno-Karabakh war, and I still remember these things. But when you are also growing up and the war is something you heard in the news, and then it's coming to your life, and artists, as every other human, they don't know what to do. And I guess this was also the major case in Armenia, that what is the role of art in general when it's coming to the weapon. And I mean, does all the art before the war make sense now? Or was you the one who, created it? Was, this as a sense of guilt, this, all the factors are coming always to the ones who have this critical thinking, and we want it or we don't want it. The artist is born with the questions and doing and dealing with all the questions. And I guess, unfortunately, the majority is really not asking a lot of questions because we want all the time to know the answers, but the artists are still struggling with lots of questions. And what is happening in Iran and what is happening in all other countries, I guess the least we can hear sometimes is the artist voice and the ones who are questioning something, because also society, media, they want answers, they want success stories, they want, immediately, exact answers to anything. But this is one thing, and the other thing is also when it's coming so-called peace and two countries which has a long history of conflict, then pushed to go to the peace processes, which is also another case of so we are approaching also elections in Armenia, and the question is also majority will also choose how minority, the people from Nagorno-Karabakh, should live later on in Armenia. This is also another challenge which is also coming as a different question or a challenge to the artist. Will art become a place to preserve the memory? Will art become the place for a political resistance? Will art become a place of healing? So all these questions are really there, and it's very hard to say what is the exact color of the culture scene here in Armenia. But I can speak about the project that I run and I'm involved with. Is also there is no answer. Unfortunately, there is no answer because it's every day. And the only thing that I can say that after the war, the only thing that I can really say that makes sense in my life, this is art and education, because all the other options, really, humanity is failing, and unfortunately, also from the artistic perspective, I guess art is also very much used of romanticizing and creating this image of war and everything. And it was also feed to the manipulation in all over the world through the social medias and everything. And now we all experiencing the real side of this. And I think art has also this power, which is very much used now. We can see in bigger countries, and you know what I mean, how art is used to manipulate the broader audience and the broader society, which is also a painful moment where you can see how a person is dealing with his power. Yeah, and also the other thing is also Armenia and with this neighboring country, and I feel also so bad that for a long time Armenia and Georgia were always waiting for European impulse to be together. I mean, a joint something or initiatives, and I think was also something that we should now, especially now, work on and be together with the Georgian nation, and especially with the artists, and especially the ones who still sees how important to be with the critical thinking and not to take everything granted, and there is always a chance to change, in my opinion. Yeah.
Just one more quick question as well. Did the situation since last year changed in terms of financial support Would it affect it, like the EU funds, for instance, or some other funds would like rise or?
I think there are some signs that there will be big changes, but in reality, the changes are not there yet, because I think this is also very much connected with the geopolitical shifts, which is happening also in Georgia. And I think lots of things are activating in Armenia, or lots of international representations are still staying in the region, but relocating their resources or their things towards Armenia. But I will not say that there are big changes, but I can say there is a wish to have a bigger change and bigger resources. But will also be very much clear after elections on Sunday. Oh my God, it's on Sunday, and still the election is also a different case to be explored with its political manipulations and again geopolitical involvement of the bigger players.
Thank you. I'll now ask I'll ask Otar, like you were an artist in exile within like few weeks or months, probably, like a Georgian artist. Tell us a little bit about like the situation, what your perception, institutional wise and cultural wise, and why you ended up in exile in this situation. And then within the second part, we'll probably try to get up to some conclusions and find some positive things if we still can find something.
And I'm pretty sure there is always a chance and a way to find something positive in everything, at least hope. And yeah, well, let me start. It's well, we all know there is no war in Georgia in that meaning, but it's not very much different from that. In Tbilisi, our organization was part of the protest since day one. Even before that, we started with the so-called Russian law protest, second wave, because on the first wave we still did not exist yet. So the moment we established this organization, they started the second wave of Russian law, so-called Russian law protest, and we joined. We joined because some musicians were arrested on Hero Square. This is pretty much how repression started for like a wide range of citizens. And yeah, we organized the project Georgian Musicians for European Future, where a very big part of Georgian musicians made concerts, and we paid dozens of fines of activists and musicians, of course. And this is how we got into their eyes. Then this marching started. We organized 2 marches by musicians from conservatory. First one, we went to mayor's office on Saburtal, and second one, we went to Ministry of Culture. And so when we got noticed, I started to get fined, which now I have, if I'm not mistaken, 10 fines of 5,000 gel. They let me know about first couple fines. Sorry?
5,000 each.
Each, yes, of course. 5,350 each, because they told me, and then they didn't even let me know, because if we are not giving legitimacy to this regime, then their court, which the whole world knows that is worth of nothing in terms of justice, it also means nothing. So I won't go to a court when they call me to come. I was planning, to be honest, to get a pink wig and go like that, but I couldn't get a wig, so I didn't go. And since third fine, they stopped giving me notice, and it was just already from this financial organization which puts block on your accounts and everything. I don't remember how it's called even in Georgian. And yeah, so they were blocking every way to survive. We've made a couple of couple of fundraisers to keep going, but well, it all doesn't make really pretty much sense, because when you're having so many political prisoners, youth with them, like students in prison, females, journalists, and each and every participant of the protest can be in the jail any moment. Nobody knows, because we're having such a draconian laws that it makes like no sense even in authoritarian regime. So yeah, when I had this opportunity to come to Yerevan, in which I work for some time with local colleagues to establish some things here too, I gladly took this chance and left. Yeah, that's in general story of my exile.
Thank you, Ota. Yeah, just briefly for those who don't know, like the culture field in this country has been protesting for almost like 4 years, a little bit longer. This is the 5th year probably, when the new minister, I mean, the repressions in the culture field in this country started even before that, and there were signs that this country is going towards autocracy. Just the culture field is probably more visible than the rest. For instance, in the justice, in the juridical system, you don't see the repressions outside until it goes to some like significant or important cases, when it's like lighted by media or some others. So in the culture field, due to the famous people and the famous actors and the famous artists, it's more visible. That's why it became visible within the culture field, but it was already pretty clear for us that this is going to different changes, and this will affect the entire country. So within this protest and the Russian laws, so-called Russian laws that was adopted, and the rigged elections in 2024, the situation is getting worse, of course, but there are still a lot of people are getting into exile, but we're still trying to survive. And what is pretty important, that the protests are still ongoing, and today is probably for more than 500 days already. And yeah, this is the way of survival. So everyone are choosing their own ways. And going back to the survival, I'd like to go back to the one question for all of you, and you'll decide who's going to start with these responses. Like, what do you think we, as the human beings, as the professionals in our field, what is what we can do particularly to survive and to help each other in this situation? Maybe it sounds a little bit naive, but I still believe that there are like the human connections and the professional connections can do a lot. If we look into the history, and if we look how the communities and how the certain creative and artworks affected the communities and affected the countries, and at the end, yeah, maybe it's a long process. We know we're not naive that things gonna change quickly, but what do you think? Can this be, what can be done, and how we can work in this situation together? Or who would like to start with answering? Katya, maybe you?
So to be honest, like I think the most like it's how it was mentioned, like to find the positive cases. I think the most positive case that like we're still alive and we're still independent and we have our countries, and like and we have to enjoy it and to really fight while we have this for like for the future, for our future, while we have these possibilities and opportunities to be alive. It's something which is quite new, like discovered during over the last years in Ukraine, that like how it's important like to really have this life and to live it like in the full possibilities. But also like I think it's like there's like already was briefly mentioned like several things which is I think is quite important in the culture field. Like for example, there was briefly says already about this self reflection as a self protection, because what I noticed, for example, in Ukraine during the last like 4 or 5 years, that a lot of soldiers, militaries, they started to use photography for the self-reflection. They're making the images not for the exhibitions, not for the public posts, not for the Instagram, just for themselves. And also I noticed that, like, for example, the selfie by itself, it appears quite often, much more often than in the daily civilian life. And it's also this kind of a reflection that, of course, like the selfie you're sending to your family and you're sending like to show that, okay, it's you're alive and everything is fine. But also this is the act to do the selfie of yourself. It's also to show yourself that you're still alive. And this is also quite the act, like the physical act to prove it. And I found out it's like really interesting how this like photography, because like photography is quite the media which is accessible for everyone who has the phones, but like how this simple media really became the strong way to keep your mental health. And this is like was quite interesting, and it's still quite interesting to observe this. But also I can see like for the analyzing the materials from the civilians that also like this act of the making images when something happened is also like not just the question for the posting. Most of these images and private archives will be never posted and never will be online, but it's more for yourself, like for this, like the keeping the distance from one side, but also like to protect yourself mentally. But also from here, like we comes to another point, it's about the documentation and archivation. Because like our countries, we had this experience of the Soviet regime, the Soviet time when so many like historical artifacts were destroyed, and so many national codes were destroyed as well, just for the destroyed the old beliefs, destroyed the national codes to build these new narratives, which was important for the Soviet regime. But also now it's like we are going in the same direction, but just different methods. Like in Ukraine, as frontline is moving, the museums and the archives can be destroyed by the rockets and by the like simply by the war, how it moves. But like it means that like we are losing our codes of the identity and the historical artifacts. And of course, like this is quite important, like first of all, like to clearly understand what we lose and how like to protect this, but also like to understand that like even like the producing of the new works nowadays, this is the way of the build this new archive and the ways to build this the history for the future. I mean, like talking about Georgia, about Armenia, about Ukraine, like in the 30 years, like the new generation will be making the, I don't know, like the research how we used to live and like what it was really. And the art, it's one of the way to really like to documenting these changes and really like be part of the save these voices and to really make them visible in the future. But also like talking about all this like together in general, of course, like it's a question for me of the identity by itself, because like the art for me, it's of course like the way of the keeping the identity, but also like the sharing the identity, but also like this is like the way of how we are united together, and like this is like the alternative language to really which we can use and to understand each other, like from the mentality background, but also the culture background, which has actually united us as the country. And maybe the last point, it's of course the supporting of each other, because it's also like the case from Ukraine. It's interesting, you know, like that nowadays, for example, if you would like to go to the theater performance in Kiev, you have to buy the ticket half year in advance because there's no tickets. It's everything sold out. Because for the people who are living already like more than almost like 5 years in the full-scale war, it's the art, it's still like that place where you can a little bit like to not to think what's going on, maybe like to have some rest, or maybe even different, like to have some reflection. And like it also helps like to reflect what's going on, but or maybe just like simply like to have this moment of silence with like in front of the piece of art or the performance or whatever. So nowadays, all the art events which is going on in Ukraine, it's it's booked. It's fully booked. It's so many people because there's this wish from the people like to have this access to the art, and art helps to survive, and it helps really like to have this to keep the energy to move forward. So I think this is like kind of for me like this my main points which I can see and share from my side.
Yeah, thank you, Gordon. It probably also helps to looking forward because someone need to do something with this. We need to do something with an archives. We need to rebuild a lot of things, whatever was destroyed, and this is also very much important. And does it somehow, maybe it's a very paradoxical thing, but in a way, this war and also helped Ukraine to shape its own identity, which somehow was a little bit thought that it wasn't so. It was a bit lost because of the kind of like a clear cultural identity what we're talking about, because it's something worth of protecting.
It's definitely make the process faster, but I'm not sure that like it's so important to pay this price for the speed.
No, absolutely not. I mean, that's why I'm saying this is like a paradoxical thing, but maybe this is something when we're looking for the some things that help us surviving, that are gonna have will help us drive throughout these things. Maybe this is something that we can. It's basically like a survival hint. Yeah. Thank you. And Shokat, what do you think? What we can do, and what should we do?
Absolutely, sharing Katerina's thoughts. And I was also thinking, like the art itself, when it's coming to these crises of identities and everything, I guess what we should do is kind of continuing the last word is also very much about like being there and also being next to each other, also when it's possible physically. And this is also very much, I was also referring to the situations which were happening also in Georgia and also in Armenia, very closer geographically. And I was wondering like how many of Armenian artists were really protesting with Georgian artists, and how many Georgian artists are reflecting to the situation in Armenia. This and same goes also with the Ukraine. We doesn't mean need to have like physical borders to in order to reflect on each other's pain. And I think this artistically solidarity together will create this international awareness, which will also bring to the situation that I guess the world is kind of really benefiting of these dividing processes, this kind of like, let's divide these countries and let's create artificial problems, and let's benefit and let's sell the weapons and let's sell the wars to next case and next case. But I think this like international solidarity within the artist is very crucial. And I think like, when there is a possibility to include an artist from Nagorno-Karabakh to have his own voice, not everyone is deciding for themselves. We are not deciding for the Ukrainians over there. Ukrainian has a voice to say, Armenian has a voice to say, an artist, but it doesn't mean from a nation perspective. It doesn't mean even from, this is a particular voice. And it's so crucial, especially with the crises, to have, not to have this like, broader sense of that this is the nation, or this is the situation, or this is something, this is my voice and this is my situation and this is my case. But this diversity of the voices and diversity of the opinions, I guess the key to bring changes, because we're always thinking that when we will be all similar, everything will be great, but we kind of failed with our Soviet Union regime, the similarity case, we failed it in 70 years. We know that it's not working that way. We can't be in peace with the similarity. We should be in peace with our diversity. We are different, but it's fine, and we will be together. And I think the art and artists should create this diversity. And especially now, it's a complex situation. And to have one answer, it's so hard. But I think the artists are working with the complexity of the questions. And I think that if we will have these multi voices, we might have also multi options, and maybe it's some things will be, and you know, the wars are starting and they will be over, and hopefully soon will be over. But the hate, but all this pain and the losses, it's already there. You know, it will not disappear on the day when the war will be over. And what is the role of art also there? This is also another question. So it's just a process of, I think, that giving the voices and creating the platforms when artists by themselves are speaking about their issues. The same goes also with, I don't know, artists from Afghanistan, artists from Syria, artists from Iran, you know, not interpretations of the problem, but the real you know, holders of the crises should speak up more. And I was also like, you know, what happened in Venice Biennale, which is also like the main artistic platform, you know, it all goes to the same thing, that still the main narratives, the main even cultural narratives are not very much reflected to the realities which are happening. And I think this has to do with the generalizing the the countries, the narratives, the symbols, the images. And yeah, I think one of the ways I can see as a gateway from here is to have multi voices from the countries which are struggling. And yeah, maybe that's it.
And what do you think are the platforms to get the voices? If, for instance, when you're mentioning that Venice Biennial, it is supposed to be the biggest platform, because we have to agree that such huge platforms for art, like festivals and films, are all created as a political platforms as well. They're not isolated from the art, and nowadays the art is very much political, because whatever the artists say, it's a very strong narrative. It can affect and especially presented via this huge platform, it actually affects a lot. So basically, the Venice Biennial was a quite important case this year, because we all saw what happened there on the Russian pavilion, reopening of the Russian pavilion, which somehow I would imagine that more artists would protest against this, but eventually what happened in the Venice Biennial, such a strong, so-called strong and orthodox structure that collapsed completely because of the irrelevance to the contemporarity and irrelevance to what is happening in the life and the world. It's not about like particularly Russia or someone else, but it was irrelevant to have when the ongoing war is still in Ukraine happening, than having the official pavilion, which is the political statement. It's kind of a crucial. So what are the platforms we can use for this? If not these biennials, or should we somehow use these
I
platforms
mean,
and
like
maybe
we should,
challenge them?
yeah, I think we should use and challenge them. I guess we should do it. And I wish for more artists to have solidarity, and I think to have more established artists to have solidarity. And I wish that it's not going towards selective solidarity, and I wish not to go towards you know, how much the art market is now. You know, it also has to do a lot. And I think that this year Venice Biennale and many other cases, you know, like we are just discussing this one because it has got this buzz, but also many smaller and bigger cases. I guess we are also really having this crisis of people of saying like, okay, we already reflected on that case, you know, we already reflected on this country's case. It's enough. Let's move forward. Life is continuing, and the war is a part of the life, you know. Now, unfortunately, what is kind of like really making me, you know, angry, that apparently war is a new normal, and it's fine to have wars, and it's fine to scroll away when it's coming another war news, because we are tired of it. It's we decided to be political because we want to take care of ourselves, which is also fine because we need to take care of ourselves. But the price that we are giving of our neutrality is way too high on the others. I think that it's slightly time to be less neutral in the cases, and it's time that we honestly also saying that we are failing a couple of the things. And one of the things also I can say from artist perspective that artists are also failing the solidarity between each others, especially when it's coming to the similar cases like we are also holding now, and how many artists are reflecting to each others. And this is not a blame, but it's also like a call for action to be more reflective towards each other, because we kind of like now sitting at this Zoom call, and there is a common narrative of the conflicts which we are dealing, and we never thought that it will be like this. We never wanted to be like this, but it's already our new reality. And I think we should speak more, collaborate more, because we just in a different phases of the same continuation of the loops that our countries are really going through. Yeah.
Thank you, Sharon. Otar, what you would like to add to what can we do?
I don't think that and we have this. I 100% agree with both participants, but I would like to ask our audience to put their vision on the fact that culture is what preserves identity of the nation, and that's why Russia is striking culture so badly in a different ways in every region. We have like there are very sad examples in Mariupol with local theater and museum where some masterpieces will not be saved and will never exist anymore, unfortunately. There is this intellectual occupation in Georgia. I don't know, there are lots of examples how Russia tries to occupy even without like physical power. But probably for preservation, the best way is to digitalize everything like ASAP, as soon as possible, because that's probably the only way to save at least partially what we have and to stay in touch with the rest of the world. Shortly, that's it.
Wouldn't we end up in a digital world at the end if we'll have only digitalized everything? And
I don't think the digital and real, so-called reality, are pretty much separated. I mean, it's already one big reality. So, yeah, of course, that's not the best way, but I think it's the only way, except victory.
so we all should hope and do something like each step.
We should try hard. Yeah, we should try really, really hard.
Yeah, maybe we have to focus and decide like what we call the victory. In some cases, it's pretty much clear and easy to understand. For instance, in Ukraine, there is no question what the victory would be. No one will understand. But in our cases, it doesn't seem that we are in a conventional war at the moment. But though partially we are in a conventional because the part of the country is still occupied in our case, but we are in a hybrid war. And a hybrid war affects everything. And all of you correctly mentioned that they're targeting the identities. They're targeting the identities of the nations, because if you want to occupy a certain nation, you have to challenge them and to change their identity, to remove and replace all the narratives this country has been born. And exactly as the Shogart mentioned, that these diversities makes basically what makes us what makes the identity itself, makes it the beauty of it, because this is how the countries are built and this is how it all was collected and how we came to the contemporarity with all these differences throughout the centuries. And this is the beauty of it, and but this is also the strengths of the nation. And when we have the strengths, we're ready to protect it, and how we are ready to protect it, we don't know until we have it, we're facing it. And yeah, unfortunately, these days we all are facing these different conditions of the same war with the same enemy, and but we have maybe to understand that this enemy will never give up in these conditions, and but we have to be ready to how to overcome this situation and how to fight it. It's maybe it's already a very philosophical question. We won't be able to give all the answers during this webinar, and I just like you to give very short remarks. Just make a circle, whatever you would like to add. What do you think that we should talk about in the future, and how we should continue on going with this everything? Please give your short remarks, and I would like to thank you all again for being here. And it was very, very much important, even for me, like knowing some situations from some parts. It was really new, and I wish we would continue on going with this. Please, Katja, can you add some?
I just think that like it's nice that like we all gather here, because it really gives the feels that okay, that like we are not alone, and it gives the feelings that how the important to know more in the outside of your bubble, of course, what's going on, but also like in this unity and the support, because as it was mentioned, like it could be the really long war for all of us, but like in the unity, I think it's will be possible like to reach the victory, which we have to do. So this is my briefly reflection, let's say.
Thank you very much, Shobart.
I think also it's very important to speak in all possible ways, and with very different also representative from the same nations, this diversity again going and on and on. And it's also, I guess, very important to try also to have representatives, I guess, from even from Russia, even from Nagorno-Karabakh, even from Azerbaijan. Even it's very important sometimes to speak with the ones who are also not sharing their governmental views and trying to build long-term peace in the ideal world, which is failing every second. But it's also very important to try these difficult conversations. And same goes with the Turkey in our case, same goes with all like Israeli, Palestinian. I guess this is the thing that I guess I wish to see more, but unfortunately, as the governments are failing, this is getting less and less, and it will be less because there is no chances for, and no hearts and no emotions for this kind of conversations. But I guess this is also very important to make these steps towards that too. And I wish that changes will come also within the countries itself. This is also very important in all cases, that the changes are not only because of the outside influence, but it's also happening within the country. And this will create long-term pieces. This will create long-term realizations. What is it? And maybe it's needed an influence from outside, but still like inside and upper, down to up changes are very much needed in this case, in my opinion. Yeah.
Thank you, Shobart. Yeah, maybe I guess you're totally right, but it's really hard to talk about the dialogue when you are in open conflict.
Absolutely.
When the war is happening and when the bombs are on above your head, this is maybe a slightly different situation. But in our cases, yeah, I totally agree that the dialogue is pretty much important. That's why we'll probably have our next discussion when we'll have it. It will be about the cultural dialogue. And Otur, I would like.
I'm just want to mention that I didn't mean
No,
that
no,
I
no.
didn't
I'm
mean like
not
a
fronting
very
it.
biased opinion from Russia or whatever. I was just meaning because there are also some people who are really sharing the values which we also discussed today. This what I meant, at least to start the.
Absolutely. Oh,
Yeah.
sure. Otur, if you may.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to all the participants. First of all, it is really magic feeling when you find people, you see people for the first time, and you have so much in common in understanding what is going on and in observing reality. Let's say, okay. So I would like to add that first of all, solidarity and unity now, at least in Armenia and Georgia, has to be taught and preached because there are many very warm-hearted people in both our countries, and they just don't know how it works. And there should be something like even this webinar that will show and explain people that there are ways to become a more heartfelt person and to do kinder deeds, more kind deeds. Sorry. Also, I would like to add that unity is probably the answer to everything. And as people of cultural sphere, we should be first ones, as in everything, to start it and to work on it, which would be best steps probably towards moving our country to civilized Western world. Thank you. That's probably it.
Thank you. Thank you all, and I wish you a peaceful night, Katya, and wish you Shogurt successful elections that we're very much looking forward, and of course the victory to come to all of us. And thank you very much, and I appreciated a lot your time and your energy, and I hope you had taken out something from this very nice conversation for me and pleasant, I guess. I hope for the people who are listening to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You